Yo, I respectfully disagree podcast and potentially a up and coming podcast. I got Trevor and Robert in the building with us today. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
So today's gonna be a sort of a different episode, but overall pretty much the same concept. I've always expressed that the mic is always open. If it's anything you want to discuss, feel free to reach out and we can make that work. And Robert took me up on that offer. And today's topic, I have it labeled as Democrat versus Republicans slash what party really has our best interests, just kind of as a catch people's eyes, so especially in today's climate and everything that's going on right now. But more so, I'm hoping that this conversation is just going to be for educational purposes.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure things out. Today's my first day, meeting Trevor. So there's a lot for me to learn and just throw out some ideas. And I'm going to give you the floor here in a moment. But the way you presented this idea to me is really what kind of got my wheels turning, because you were like, can we discuss what party we vote for and why? And by us both being African American, if we were to side with Republican views and things like that, why does it instantly become us being against our race? Or it's viewed as, oh my God, he's a sellout, he's a this, he's a that. And that's the part that I want clarification on as well, simply because there are times where I've seen Republican views and I'm like, it falls in line with my views.
Yeah.
But because of how we were raised and taught, it's like, how dare you?
Yeah.
But it's like now we're older, we got families and things like that. And for me personally, I feel like what is in the best interest of my life and how it's going to better me. So just to, like I said, kick things off as an introduction, the floor is yours in terms of why you wanted to have this conversation. I think we can start there just to put it out there to give everybody a better feel, so that it doesn't look like the whole intentions today is just a clash.
Get it. No, so for me, I have a child that's special needs, and we start looking out for resources to help with therapy and all the testing and medications that was needing to be tried to help my son. And it came back that we made too much. And when you start looking at the documents, you're like, how do I make too much when I'm barely making it as it is already?
Right.
We are married income with with two kids, and we are a 6-figure home, but still, once you take out taxes and stuff, we're like everyday American.
It's a whole lot different.
Yeah, we're living check to check sometimes, and my son really needs, ABA therapy, OT, speech, things just so he can make it through the day and get the resources he needs to survive. So it just started making me think that, there's another kid, let's say kid B, who parents are not married, may not have the income that we have, but they instantly qualify for services. And to me, I'm just like, I guess you look at it, and I don't want to say it like, you quote unquote do it the right way. You get married first, you have kids, and you're still struggling. But the everyday American who does not and just has, a child or 2 or 3 can just easily get the benefits, like that.
It's almost like you feel like you're being punished for doing what's right.
Yeah, for
and
doing
then
what's
working hard. And
so to me, I start looking at, is it politics? Is it what party best suits my needs? There are some Republican values that I do agree with, one being the food stamps. I feel like if you can work and you still qualify for food stamps, that's fine. But if you're just sitting at home and you have the ability to work and you're sitting here getting 1,000, if not more than food stamps, no, I don't think that's right. And does that make me look bad? If it does, I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel.
Right.
When I know I go into Kroger and my little 8 groceries cost 100, and I see 2 carts next to me, and I'm like, how the hell are like
Trust me.
how the
Trust
hell
me.
are they affording
Yeah.
that? So it just made me start thinking, are the people in Washington really doing the things that I need them to do to help me out,
Mhm.
And well, like I said, I was raised a Democrat, still registered a Democrat. Basically, it was just taught, hey, you're gonna vote this way, this way, this way. I have family members that will get food stamps and sell them for a profit. And I'm just like that's my tax dollars that you're selling to make a profit. Where I would be grateful to get some food stamps, even though we are, like I said, a 6-figure home. There's days where we're living check to check. So I mean,
Right.
if
Trust me, I feel that.
if it's
1000%.
like I'm sitting here buying my son the off-brand crunch berries when
Mhm.
Sometimes they're better.
well, sometimes they are better, but still, it's the principle that I really think we need to look and see what party is working the best for us. So
Honestly, that's a perfect breakdown because it's more personal.
Yeah.
Like you have your personal reasons for why you have the views that you have. And for me, overall, I look at it from a lens of growing up, I was taught the same exact thing. I'm on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
My mother worked, but we were on Section 8 housing. So I was the kid that got free lunch and things like that. And we didn't qualify for food stamps. So in that sense, I know what it feels like to be like, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
But because of what I make, I can't get it.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like when you start talking about politics, that cloud of putting everybody in that same category is the part that I don't necessarily agree with. So it's like everybody assumes that if you're on food stamps, you're lazy, you don't want to work, you don't want to do this, that.
Yeah.
And it's like, in my opinion, overall, in every aspect of life, there's always going to be people that's trying to manipulate the system.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if you look at what's going on in the White House currently, and you read about the debt and the things, I know y'all saw the headlines of the week where it was talking about how many millions of dollars was spent on lunch and things like that. So from my perspective, I feel like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's no different, but because when you look at people from a lower income background and poverty stricken environments, they're viewed in a negative light because of the food stamps and they're trying to sell them and do this and do that. But then you turn a blind eye to all these millionaires exploiting a system and using it to their benefit as well.
Correct.
So it's like, who do you trust? Like who has your best interest at heart?
I think both of y'all raised a good point. Like you said, I disagree with some things, I agree with some things, and it seems like anymore you got to agree with everything your party says. You can't disagree with it, and as soon as you disagree, your side turns against you.
Exactly.
And it's like there is no party where you're going to agree with everything. It's just like your wife. You're not going to agree with everything your wife says. You're going to have arguments and everything else. So, I mean, I think everybody just needs to take a look in the mirror and actually look at, like Robbie said, what's best for you, what's best for you and your family, and don't listen to everyone else. And that's why I wanted to have this, is Facebook, and I think social media in general will be the demise of social, or like just civilization as we know it, because it's an echo chamber. It's a cesspool of just people commenting back and forth, and you can't read people through comments
at all.
No,
at all.
And that's why I like open discussion, because you get to really hear things out. And that's like, I started listening to Joe Rogan like years ago, and he has these long drawn out discussions with people. And even if they're Democratic or Republican, you can listen to their answers in depth. And It's not just a black and white answer where, it's just a headline. And a lot of people just read headlines. They don't read the full story, and they just, they share it and they blurt it out. And there's a lot of Democratic things that I agree with, conservative as well, but I
Mhm.
think they're all tainted. They're all not looking out for our interests
Yeah.
At all. At
at
all.
all,
At all.
and they're looking to get rich. That's obvious. I mean, you see it with all these people that come into Congress, and you see their net worth, and then 10 years in Congress,
Mhm.
and they're a multimillionaire. Yeah, so I don't think they're doing it for us. I think they're doing it for them and what's in the best interest for them. And they might go in with good intentions, like they're going to change things. But then it's like, oh, hey, Robbie, you want your kid to go to the best schools? Here, make this pass and you'll go to the best schools ever and
Yeah.
everything like that. So I think discussions like this are needed. The reason I wanted to have it was Democrats and conservatives can get along. Any ethnicity can get along with each other. And if you look at the news, it's not viewed like that. It's
Yeah.
constant division
Yeah.
and everything else. And it's like, we're like brothers, like me and him have become really close. And it's like, if you look at it out in the world, like I always tell him, we go to the gym. It's full of white people, black people, Hispanic, whatever. We hold the door open for each other. We say, please, we say, thank you.
We speak, we greet.
Yeah.
No.
It's not, if you looked at it on the news, you would think the world was in just pure chaos.
Yeah.
And it might be, on a higher level, but on our level, I don't think it is. I think we have way more in common, and that needs to be put out there.
Yeah.
So we got a comment already. Left wing, right wing, it's all one bird. They work together to create the situation we are in, to create bills and laws to benefit the rich for their own legacies and their own families. So that their own families will never go hungry. And I think, everything that you're saying, I wholeheartedly agree with. And that's why personally, I was hoping that today was just going to be a chill day, which we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
It's not to ambush anybody or anything like that. But I want to touch back on the roots of all of this in terms of where I'm going to assume, because you haven't said it, you're a Republican, correct?
I would say I lean conservative. But again, Democrats, they say things that I like as well, but I lean conservative.
Okay.
I definitely look the part, as he always says. But
Baby Rogan,
shut up. But I do lean more left or right. Sorry.
And the reason why I'm asking is because it's like kind of what Robert is saying in terms of we're hit over the head as a child.
Yeah.
This is what you're supposed to be, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like if we can start breaking some of those generational thoughts and actually look at the bigger picture, because are you born and raised from Kentucky?
Yeah.
So you as well, correct?
Yeah.
So we're all from Kentucky, and this is just my opinion. So it's not a fact-based statement or anything like that. This is just me, and I've always viewed myself as thinking outside of the box. I'm like, in terms of Kentucky itself, we are one of the poorest states.
Yes.
And as long as I've been alive, I feel like Kentucky has always been a red state. Predominantly. And it's like, I've been from end to end. I'm from Western Kentucky.
Okay.
Hickman County.
Okay.
But I've been to Clinton County, which is Eastern Kentucky, in the mountains and things like that.
Right.
And I see how the living conditions are. Yeah. And when you think of education and things like that, so it's like, that's proof, in my opinion, that this whole thought process in the system is flawed, because we're so used to, we're going blue, they're going red, we're going to keep Kentucky red. But it's like, overall, where is the track record of this state improving in terms of education, just not even being looked at as one of the poor states?
Right.
And it's like, there's no evidence to support that voting red has benefited.
Correct.
If you look at it from, just take a 50-year window.
Right.
And it's like, that's the conversation that I want to have with people. It's like, okay, you're so loyal to left or right, but there's no benefit. To me, it's just a constant seesaw.
Right. And even though the state is red, we've always had blue leaders, though.
Mhm.
You know, Greenberg, Bashir. If you look at, you know, when they do the voting map, it's all red except for Louisville, Lexington, and
Bowling Green.
Yeah, and then there's some outskirts as well. So, and I'm not saying we would be any better under Republican leadership. The way that I am right now, I think they all are terrible. I don't think they can say whatever they want out there. It's just not for us. You know, it's, as you say, get the rich richer. You know, Mayor Greenberg's constantly on Facebook, and he's always just at these appearances. I'm like, why aren't you doing your job? You know, you're never in the office doing your job. Bashir, I think he's done some good things for Kentucky. I didn't agree with the whole pandemic protocol that I think he held on to for a little too long. But other than that, I think he's done pretty decent. So I can say that. I can say, hey, you're a Democrat and you did a pretty good job. I don't feel like a lot of people can do that, or they're scared to.
Yeah.
Because I think they're
you're so loyal.
Yeah, they think their friend base is going to be like, oh, what are you talking about? Or, you know, or get bashed online or whatever. But like when Nancy Pelosi said, vote blue no matter who, I think that's one of the dumbest statements ever. And if someone said vote red no matter what, that's stupid as well.
Exactly.
Go with what aligns with your beliefs.
I agree. I got another comment. I thought for years Kentucky was where a lot of wealthy folks lived. Look, I'm gonna push the button on you.
I disagree.
I respectfully disagree with that. The thing that people don't realize is that Kentucky is made up of a shit ton of small counties.
Yeah.
Once you get past, like he said, Louisville, Lexington, I consider Bowling Green small in a sense.
Yeah.
But like I said, I grew up in Western Kentucky. I graduated high school with 38 people.
Oh, wow.
38 people, 8 being black, and that includes me. So it's like I've always felt that I've had a different perspective on a lot of things in the world, whether it's politics or mixed couples and things like that, because we didn't have a lot of black people growing up where I was from. So you had no choice but to interact. So I grew up seeing rebel flags, the pickup trucks. I was one of 2 people on the basketball team. Everybody chewed tobacco. A lot of these stereotypes that come with quote unquote the good old boys and things like that. But once I moved to Lexington to go to college, and then people started seeing me as, oh, wait a minute, he's not like us. He's different.
Which is the talk we had about how, you know.
So it's like, for me, I've always viewed myself as being able to understand the best of both worlds.
Yes.
But going back to your comment, it's like when you go through a lot of these smaller counties, and a lot of this is farming. So it ain't a big city, this and that. Like, we didn't have any restaurant. Like, everything was mom and pops. The closest Walmart for us was a 20-minute ride.
Yeah.
Closest shopping mall was an hour ride. So the majority of Kentucky is like that. And then once you go up into Eastern Kentucky, Glasgow, and all these different places, it's made up of small little counties.
Yes.
And I think that's the misconception. And like I said, going back to our conversation, it's like, I feel like people vote against their own best interests simply because of these misconceptions that's been planted into our heads since we were babies.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I think that was really, I think, put out there on media when Snoop, I think it was Trump's first inauguration, you know, and he said, which one of you Uncle Toms is gonna perform for this? I forgot what he called him. But it's like, why would you say that? You know, because if someone aligns with him, you know, or whatever, like I think Ludacris was going to play at the TPUSA or whatever,
something like that,
something like that, and then everybody bashed him and he pulled out and everything else, and then Snoop, I think, ended up doing
did a crypto event or whatnot,
right?
And then we canceled Snoop and did all this and that. So not to interject or cut you
No.
off, I think that's a perfect transition into the thought process of, again, it goes back to how our minds are being
Right, yes.
programmed. Because growing up, I recall a point in time where there were a lot of Donald Trump references in rap music and songs,
Yeah.
and it wasn't with a negative lens.
Yes.
You fast forward now as him, you know, becoming a president, and for me, this is strictly just me. I don't look at Democrat or Republican. I look at who you are as a person.
Exactly.
And once he started running for office and you saw the things that he was saying, and you're sitting like, man, wait a minute. In my opinion, he ran a campaign based on what he felt a lot of Americans deep down was really, you know, what's brewing in their gut is like, we got to make America great again. And I, in my opinion, I felt like it was rooted in racism. And
Right.
he played on that because of the perception of the world and things like that. So now you snowball into, if you're African American and you siding with this over here, then you're automatically against us.
Right.
And I think that's where some of that thought process comes from. But in my opinion, you have the evidence to support why some would feel that way.
Right.
So my
Yeah.
question back, and I'm gonna quit rambling, is we all see the headlines, like you said.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
choose not to click on them and things like that. I feel like that's the wrong move, because just like I told y'all before we started, I worded this episode a certain way for a reason.
Correct.
Now it's up to you whether you click on it and listen to what we have to say.
Right.
Yeah.
But this headline is here for a reason.
Right.
Most media and news, journalism, you're supposed to do
They
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this case, I feel like you'll see a headline and it's like, Donald Trump says this, he attacks this person and said blah, 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 blah. And then people just run with it.
Right.
Where is the context?
Yeah.
But then when you look at the context, it's like, damn, like this is how it comes off.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you see that and you still side with him and you still ignore all these different things, then I do feel like you have a valid argument to be like, man, you support a racist, you supported
Right.
this and that. And that's when we get into these tangled lines of where do we go from here? So how do y'all feel? Robert, I'm gonna ask you, because you know that was a very important question. It's
Yeah.
like, as a African American, it's like, did you feel some type of way if you saw a Snoop or Ludacris or somebody performing, like, or it's just no harm, no foul?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with Ludacris and Snoop, because, like I said, when I look back, I saw Trump in, you know, these movies, like you said, music videos. They refer to him. I didn't have a problem with them collecting their bag. You know, I mean, if that's who they want to support, you know, I have no problem with that. Me personally, I couldn't vote for him just because I felt some kind of way, even though I did believe that his policies helped me financially better. I don't know if it's because I'm in a biracial marriage or if it's the, you know, oh, you're a Democrat being beaten down to me. I just couldn't physically vote for him as a president because I didn't view him presidential. But like I said, some of his policies I do agree with. So that's kind of, it got me thinking about this, and I started talking with Trevor about it. I was like, I think I'm leaning more towards being independent just because I have views from both sides that I like. But I also didn't care for the Democratic nominee that was on the ticket as well. So I was kind of just stuck in a hard spot.
Right.
But I ended up still voting Democratic just because of the person that was on the Republican ticket. And I'm still trying to figure out, was that the right thing for me to do? Because I'm still in the same situation I was in, you know, when we voted for a president, almost 2 years ago. So nothing's really changed for me. It was just more of me being, I guess, bitter, biased. But yeah, I mean, going back to your question, I mean, rappers have been using everyone's name in their songs, movies. So no, I don't think we should have canceled Snoop. Snoop's going to be Snoop. Ludacris.
It's a money opportunity.
It's a money opportunity.
And it's like, again, I don't always agree with cancel culture, so to speak, but in that aspect, again, I'm gonna understand why one would feel that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And like you said, you go in the ballot box and you look at the names there and you just like, shit, like
it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, again, growing up, I didn't do politics. Me and my dad used to bump heads all the time. And he's like, your ancestors died for your rights to do this and do that, da 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 da. And I've always been the one that was just like, I don't see the benefit to it. At the end of the day, everything is still the same.
Yeah.
If you're a middle class citizen, you still got to get your ass up and go to work.
Go to work.
And regardless who's in office, I didn't see the impact of what was going on. And I've always viewed it as, man, this is just a system that's designed, like you said earlier, to just kind of keep people at odds.
Yeah.
And as long as we got a pro and a con, it's always gonna.
Always.
And it wasn't until I got married and I had kids of my own, and then you started seeing how certain decisions and things would impact your household.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I need to quit being stubborn, naive, open your mind up, and actually listen to what's going on because of the rhetorics and the things that's being pushed. Now, if I'm going to be 100% transparent, when I've watched the things that Donald Trump has said, and I've listened to his tone and the narratives and things that he's pushed, I don't care for him.
Yeah.
Right.
And real quick,
No.
I've lost so many friendships with people who openly, I voted for Donald Trump, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so because they were a Republican and things like that. I'm simply asking, as a decent human being, how can you hear and see the things that he has done and still align with it? Like, to me, you're turning a blind eye to just basic human decency.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to flip the coin on that. How can you be with Biden that says if you don't vote for me, you ain't black?
And even with that,
you know what I mean? Like,
right. Go ahead.
And everybody harps on Trump. I think, me personally, Trump's a douche. I think he is.
Wholeheartedly. Go ahead.
Yeah. So he is a douche. I can say that. I don't think Democrats can say that about their people. I think the true conservative, not your hard right, wearing your red hat, but your true conservative can call out the bullshit, on their side. Do I agree with what's going on right now? Hell no. Like, what are we doing? However, like, you had the Democratic Party has been a party of racism for decades. Look at Biden with the 94 crime bill. Kamala has put more black men behind bars than anyone. Slavery, the Civil Rights Act, not one Democrat voted for it. So if you look at the history of Democrats, that's why I really started talking to him. If you look at the history of Democrats, they've done nothing for Black America.
And that's the
and I'm not saying conservatives really have either, but I'm just saying, like, Democrats in general have really done nothing for. Now, they really speak up for them every 4 years.
Yeah.
And I've been sharing this with Robbie, and I've shared videos from Instagram on him because there's a lot of Black people actually speaking up about it now. But Black America has been replaced in the Democratic Party by the illegal immigrants. They don't speak about Black America anymore. All they speak about is immigrants. And I think a lot of people are like, wait, hold on. So you've been advocating for us for so long, and now you're not even talking about us anymore. So they've been kicked to the curb because Black voters, you saw an uptick of them voting for Republican. So I think once they saw that, they were like, we gotta change the game up. And that game change now is, let's get immigrants in here. We'll give them everything, the things that we want, we've been talking about, for free. They get free healthcare, they get free food, they get free housing. Well, of course they're going to vote Democrats for the people that brought them in here and gave them a better life. Who wouldn't? So I think there's racism on both sides of the party. But I think if you look at what Democrats have done in the past and what they still do, I think you can't sit there and say, I think Trump's racist, but I don't think Democrats are, And the way that, for one, when Trump, Biden, when they were born, racism was a big thing,
Right.
I mean, they were born in the 40s.
And that's why I feel like
You know?
if you look at Congress and you really take a deep dive,
Yes.
the majority of the
Yeah.
people sitting there, and that's why I feel like
Old white people.
the whole system needs to be broken
Yeah.
Yes.
and adjusted to
100%.
fit today's times.
Yeah.
I'm 41. When I was coming up in school, we were taught America's was, we patted ourselves on the back for being a big melting pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as an adult, it almost comes off as like we're not inclusive.
No.
That's
We're
what I-
constantly
yeah.
trying to shield and keep these people out,
Correct.
keep this out. And it's just like everything that we're looking at right now goes against what we were taught.
When we were talking,
Correct.
So that's why I'm looking at everything from a completely different lens. And I'm willing to openly say that publicly because I'm just like, I don't give a shit about Democrats or Republicans
Correct.
because it's all under one bullshit umbrella to keep all this going.
Yes.
And it's never going to stop.
right.
It's never.
And that's my point. I'm glad you said it. It's never going to change the way that it is. It's just not, because you have these old people that, I mean, what does Trump or Biden, Pelosi, McConnell, what do they care if this country goes to shit? They don't care. They're I mean, knocking on death's door right now, and they're millionaires.
Yeah.
Who cares about us? Because all the things that they decide on, it affects us, but it doesn't affect them. They got
Right.
they got gated communities, they got security, they got they don't have to worry about groceries, gas prices, any of that stuff. So they don't care. And I agree, all these people, we need to get them out and start over and start with people half of their age.
Exactly.
With some term limits. There needs to be some term limits.
Well,
on-
yeah,
Exactly.
on,
but they have to vote on that, so that's never going to happen. Yeah, I agree. And the melting pot doesn't work anymore because we're listen to someone, I forgot they said, but we're bringing in too many different ideologies and religions and everything else, where we were, a Christian based country.
Mhm.
Now we're getting in all these different religions and everything, and they don't jive. Just like the immigration, let's focus on our country first and our actual citizens. Once we don't have veterans homeless and sleeping on the streets, and we can't afford health care, we can't afford for our kids to go to good schools, blah blah blah. Once we get all that stuff situated, then let's look at immigration. But until the people that are actually paying taxes and everything else, until we see a benefit, let's not worry about that. I think we all make decent money. We have houses and cars and everything else, but we're still struggling.
Absolutely.
I work, my wife works, and it's like you get your LG&E bill, you get your water bill a day out from each other. I love that. But it's just like everything goes up and everything continues to go up, and it doesn't matter who's in office or anything. And I think once people unlock their brain, like you said, let's not look at it as Republican. Let's not look at it as Democrat. Let's look at it as basically us versus them, because I think, unfortunately, it's going to have to get bad for us to look at each other and be like, hey, we're in this together no matter what.
Mhm.
So it's not Republican versus Democrat. It's not white versus black. It's us as Americans basically against the government. Honestly,
And honestly, I feel like we're there now.
Yeah, I agree.
You touched on several things that I have written here that I wanted to discuss just to understand the perspectives, because when you talk about health, education, and things like that, as it comes off, soon as Trump got into office, I feel like his mission was to try to tear this down.
yeah,
A lot of people did not agree with Obamacare, and for whatever reason, I to this day I don't understand that. Like, was it the best plan? It may not have been, but it was a plan that was put in place to at least try to help.
Yeah.
right.
And I never understood until this moment. I still don't get the big pushback and why you want to come in and cut that off
Cut
at
it
the
off.
knee and then don't put anything in place that is even going to remotely substitute it
Right.
or give people a better option. And I'm like, for any politician, regardless of what party you're affiliated with, as you're stating, if you're really about putting Americans first and making sure that we are okay, then why does it come off as that every policy and every decision that you're making is to cripple the lower and middle class
class,
citizen? Because we've already established we're on certain occasions check to check, stress, LG&E, like you said, bills are constantly coming.
Yeah.
And regardless of how much money you make,
Yeah,
you're barely surviving.
right.
So imagine a $40,000 income
Yeah,
household. And then, like you said, it's like, okay, I make too much. I don't qualify for food stamps.
yeah,
But still, according to today's climate, I'm on the poverty line.
Yeah.
I do not make enough to survive.
right.
But according to the book, I don't qualify.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's like the more I turn on the news and the more I look at these things, it's like, bro, these people are not fighting for my best interest.
Yeah.
And
None
then
of
you
us.
you look at what's going on, and then you turn on the news, and it's like, okay, we're sending another 5,000 over there,
Yeah.
and you're fighting a war that to me is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes no fucking sense whatsoever. But
It's
then
like
it's
we-
like you have some people that's like, well, you know what? I don't care if I got to pay extra at the gas pump. I don't care if groceries go up.
Yeah.
We're fighting a good fight.
Yeah.
Hoorah! And it's like, that's stupid as fuck. Excuse my
mean,
language.
I woke up one night and not even knowing that we were at war. I just turned the TV and I'm like, oh, we bombed Iran. Like where did this come from? You know?
Because Bibi Netanyahu runs this country. I mean, he owns the politicians. When he says jump, they jump. And these guys have been fighting for thousands of years over there. We're never, ever going to make a difference over there.
At all.
And going back to my point, let's fix America first, and then we can try to be the world police like we always have been.
Mhm.
But like, let's focus on our country. And once we get that under wraps, which I don't think we ever will, I think it's too far gone. Then we can focus on everybody else. But right now, it's such a broken system, and it's designed to keep us down. It's designed to keep us divided, and
Yeah.
the healthcare alone is ridiculous. I think Obamacare was a good thing for a certain class of people, like your lower income people.
It was an option.
Yeah, but somebody had to pay that bill, and that was us. And for someone who had a lot of medical stuff here lately, like, your bills are insane. Like,
It's ridiculous. So that's
yeah.
why I'm saying, like, if you're saying we should focus on America first, everyone should be looking at it in the terms of the best interest of American people. And when you see something come out that's like a Obamacare and everybody was bitching and complaining, and it's like, when you really look at your pay stub, it's not a significant amount. Like,
no, it's
But
not.
the
It's not on
thought
your pay
process
stub.
of
It
it.
is, though, when you go to the doctor. There's a reason why doctors now, you got to wait for a doctor. When you do go to the doctor, it's astronomical, because someone has to pay that. Someone has to flip the script, and it's us, it's taxpayers. Unfortunately, I think we know now what all our money goes to. You know what I mean? Like, I was the one that it's like, well, we can't have free healthcare because, you know, of this, or we can't have free school lunch because of this. But now that we know where all our money goes, we got plenty of money. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, like, why are we going over there to the tune of, I forgot how many billions of dollars a day, when you know that the fraud, I think they said government fraud is like $110 million and a minute or an hour or something like that. So I mean, like, where does our money go?
And that's why I feel like if people actually took their blinders off,
Yeah.
took off their badge of loyalty to a party, and actually looked with a microscope at what's going on, I feel like we're all being bamboozled.
And I think that's why they keep us divided, because they know that if we all took our blinders off, we would all unite, and that would be bad
Exactly.
news bears for them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think that's why they try to keep us at war with each other, no matter what. Like I said, whether it's race, sex, political party, whatever. In my opinion, we are more divided and segregated now than we ever have been, because it used to just be white or black or Republican, Democrat. Now it's divided upon so much that I don't know if there is a coming back. You know, that was one thing, you know, after 9/11, I think that was the last time we felt like a real country, because everybody like came together and you realized how fragile everything was.
Yeah.
And everybody was flying American flags and everything. And it felt like we were actually under the same roof for once. And now I think if you had something like that, I think half of America would be like, yeah, well, we deserved it. Or, you know, whatever. I don't think we would get it back the way that we had it, honestly.
No,
I really don't.
I don't think so either. Like I said, for me, and I have this conversation with my wife all the time, when she says the world is not black and white. And I'm like, why can't it be? It's either good or bad.
Yeah.
To
Right.
me, there's no in between. And that's how I view politics and anything in the world. I'm like, why can't it be this or that?
Yeah.
So again, not to keep harping on the healthcare and things like that. I'm like, I just can't fathom how anybody with some form of decency would oppose to, if somebody gets sick and they need to see a doctor, whether they're rich or poor, you may not have access to the best doctor, but you have access to a doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would I be mad at that?
Yeah.
Or we're talking about free lunch or food stamps and things like that. It's like, does not everyone deserve a meal?
Right.
Correct.
Especially the free lunch, because kids can't help it. You know, kids
At
can't
all.
help at all what their parents are doing or whatever.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of money to do that. Not only in our country, but in our state. You know, like JCPS, it's your highest tax on your property taxes. You know, everyone's paying all this money and they're like, oh, we're still in a deficit. It's like, how? You know, where's this money going? And I think everybody needs to ask those questions on a grander scale. I don't know how to do it,
Right.
but be like, you know, where's this money going? Where are our hard-earned tax dollars going? And why are they not? It seems like it's going to everything but the kids, but the education. You know, we're ranked 42nd, I think, in America. That's terrible.
That's why I told y'all
That's
in the beginning.
terrible.
I was like, dude, if you
You
really
know?
look at this state, and it's like we're not in the upper echelon in any aspect of it. So it's like,
No.
why are we so dead stuck on I'm voting for this and then? No, we as a state have to open our eyes and say, you know what, maybe it is time for a change. Maybe it
Yeah.
is time for us to evaluate what's really going on and how we can elevate this. But we're so deeply rooted into, this is what I'm going with, this is what I'm stuck with, because my ancestors told me that.
Right.
And I was just like, I don't get it.
And I think there needs to be a group setting of things like this, like open
Yeah.
discussion. And I think it starts small and it has to go big. And I don't think that, I don't think Republicans and Democrats or the average taxpayer, I don't think we have a lot of differences. I think we have more in common than people realize.
Yeah.
But they don't reach across the line to shake the other person's hand and say, hey, I want to hear what you had to say.
Yeah.
And I have friends on the other side, and no problem. You don't have to talk politics
At all.
You don't have to talk politics at all, but you can hang out with people. And there's so many times where we have a buddy, Robbie knows him, that so he's pretty right wing, He's like, well, I don't like what he said about this. I'm like, you don't have to, like, you're not going to agree with 100% of what anyone says. So as soon as they make a comment that you don't agree with, you don't have to shut them off, So I think that's what we need. I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah. I mean, Trevor opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. Just made me start doing some more research. Cause like I said, I was so just stuck on the way I was raised. It was like, hey, I'm going against, the rules of the family, vote Democrat, vote Democrat, vote Democrat. And not that means the next election I'm going to vote Republican. It just makes, I'm going to be more, I guess,
mindful of policies and actually
take
researching.
my off. Yeah.
And that's why I didn't mean to interject.
No, you're good.
I apologize. But it's like, even when it comes to midterms and things like that, oftentimes when you look at this piece of paper, I have no fucking clue who these people are.
No.
I don't know anything about them, but blue, red. And I'm like,
exactly. Yeah.
That's not the answer to this fucking problem. And that's why
100%.
I've had several heated conversations with family members and things like, I was like, I simply do not care.
Right.
I just get that shit away. I don't care about politics. I don't care.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, like I said earlier, it's like, man, that's disrespectful. That's ignorant. I'm like, it makes me ignorant because I don't go into a box and check off a bunch of people that I don't know shit about.
Yeah.
But you feel important because you went in and you checked off a bunch of shit with people you don't know anything about. So now you come out and put your sticker on and you feel important. And I'm like, to the average person, what I just said does sound foolish. It does sound ignorant. But I'm looking at it in a term of, we're voting for people who we think have our best interests simply because of an affiliation.
Yeah.
Right.
And that may not be the case.
Right.
Yeah.
So unless you're willing to put in the research every time an election comes up and actually sit down and do that, then it defeats the purpose.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's millions of people that fall into these categories where I don't know shit about who it is, but I'm gonna go in here and exercise my right to vote because. So it's like, no, you shouldn't shun people if their views align with this person or that person. Hopefully you sit down and evaluate why I'm going in here.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was the most evident that ever was with Obama. People saw that he was a black man. They're like, I'm going to vote for him because he's black. Don't know his policies. And I don't fault black people at all for that. If it was a white guy and we've always had black presidents, I'd be like, oh, cool. Our first white president. I don't blame him for that. But you got to know policy. That'd be like me voting for our first bald president. I don't think we've ever had a bald president. Oh, he's bald. I'm just going to go ahead and vote for him and not know his policy, and you couldn't tell me that people knew about Trump's policies, Biden's policies, whatever.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Go ahead.
Yeah. You check the box. And I'll tell you what I do. I just vote straight Republican on the ticket. I don't know who those other people are. I don't know what they stand for. And they can stand for some shit that I'm totally against.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, well, I don't know them. So I'm just going to check all box and I'm going to cast my vote.
And I feel like, honestly, I think both sides are guilty of that.
Yeah.
But going back to the Obama thing, it's like in 2008, I'm still in college. I didn't vote.
Right.
But like you said, there was a rhetoric being pushed of if you're black, this is what
Oh, yeah.
this is
Sure,
what you
yeah.
have to do.
I was definitely that Reddit because I'm like, oh, dude, black president, didn't know really nothing about him, but I thought it was, hey, we're about to make history. I don't think he was a terrible president.
I don't either.
But after he was done, everyone was like, oh, he did so much stuff for African Americans, and then you sit here and look, and you're like, did he?
That
Yeah.
part I don't agree with.
You're
Yeah,
like,
so it's
name
like,
it.
did he?
Name one
Or,
thing.
Did we just vote for him because he was black? He had the swag,
Very well spoken.
Yeah, very
That's
well
what I was
spoken.
gonna say. I was
One
like, in terms of charisma, just being approachable.
Yeah.
That to me was
Yeah.
the first time I saw a president that was actually amongst the people. Even if you look at, we're right now in the heart of March Madness. I got the games and stuff on. Get ready to turn Michigan on here in a minute. But it's like a president sitting down and you filling out a bracket, and you did like. To me, I felt like that's what we need.
Yeah.
We need a president that is visible, a president that you hear speak, and it's like he may be giving us some bullshit, but
but he's doing it very well.
Yeah.
But it's like you see the goal is I'm trying to make the decisions that I feel like everybody's going to benefit from.
Yeah.
This is not me coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm the Democratic nominee, so everything that I'm putting into place is strictly for this side and this side only."
Right.
And he just presented himself very presidential to where I don't see that from Trump. Yeah.
But that's what everybody says, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, he's very well spoken, but that's all they can say.
Yeah.
And I think he was one of the best to ever do it as far as being a presenter.
Yeah.
If you took him and Trump, put them side by side, there'd be no comparison. Trump sounds like a fucking idiot up there on that podium every time.
Every single
Every
time. And it's like even
shut your mouth, man. Just let your
recently-
policies do the work and shut your mouth. But he can't do it because he loves himself.
and that's why I'm just like, when you sit here and listen to him attack our allies and NATO and things like that, and it's like, dude, this goes completely against everything we were taught,
Right.
and how to view how this world and the superpowers and things is supposed to exist. And that's why I'm just like, how can people sit back and look at this and still be okay with it? It's like,
Still,
okay, growing up, bro, the checks and balances, I was like, where is checks and balances at this point in time?
Yeah.
It's non-existent.
And that's why I was just like, dude, I personally feel like everything we were taught has now been, you ball it up and throw it in the trash
Yeah.
Right.
based on the chain of events that's going on. And it's like so many people in Congress and the Senate and all this and that, it comes off as if you're intimidated by this man
Yeah.
and you're not coming in to do your job.
Which makes you worry about going forward. Like, well, what's the next base of the Republicans going to be? Is it going to still be that mega, Trumpism, or is there going to be like a new leader come in and try to like bring the conservative party back to the way it once was? Because like I feel like when you had George Bush, I didn't mind Bush as a president. He wasn't probably the best, but I still saw presidential when I saw him. I felt like he was able to deliver a message to America that I could receive. When Trump does that, it's like you guys said, it's just him attacking everyone.
But in the beginning, I feel like people said this is what they wanted. They wanted a non-political representation.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, again, I'm kind of getting in the weeds with all of this, but I feel like it all plays a part.
I agree.
It's like, okay, soon as he got in this time, it was like this big focus on DEI and who's qualified, who's not qualified. But then you build your whole fucking cabinet on people who are not qualified.
Yeah.
People are stepping down, and in the beginning, it's like, oh, I love this person, I love them. But then when they show that they're not siding with you, then you throw them under the bus.
Yeah.
And then you insert another person that's not quite. I'm like, how are people this damn foolish to where it's like, we're so focused on, we don't want this group of people to have opportunities and this and that. But the same people that are pushing this narrative are bringing in people that are not fucking qualified to fill the seats that they're filling. That's why I'm just like, dude, why can't we hold a mirror up to America and realize that we are in a fucking shithole right now?
Right. Well, I think you went from one extreme to another, right? You went from Biden's cabinet that he wanted to check all the boxes. He
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that, he had every color of the crayon box in there, the trans, the everything else. And then Trump was like, oh, I want the direct opposite of that. And there's nothing in the middle, like you said, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what sex you are. You should be the best person for the job. And who we have right now, obviously, what they ran on, they didn't deliver on.
Yeah.
Cash Patel, Pam Bondi, they showed who they were really quick, and I think a lot of the people, a lot of the true conservatives realized that, and they were done with them as well. They were like, you're not doing what we voted for, uh, look at the Epstein files, for Christ's sake. Like, nothing's happening with that. You got it all released. You redacted everything, and now people aren't going to prison. You brought Elon on board to find all this waste and fraud. Okay, you found it. You didn't do anything about it.
Exactly.
You said people were going to get $8,000 checks. Then it went down to $2,000 checks. Well, now we're not getting shit.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
and I think more people are waking up on both sides of the fence. I think those in your face, basically fuck yous to the American people, are finally getting realized. Like, they're
hope
more
so.
evident.
I hope so, because that's how I'm viewing it.
Yeah.
And that's why I was just like, for me, I can sit back, read the articles, read the different outlets, read how these outlets are covering the same story, whether it's CNN versus Fox and this and that. And it's like, I can cipher between the two. And
Yeah. The truth lies in the middle somewhere.
Exactly. And it's like, how many people are willing to sit down and try to find that truth?
Right.
And it's interesting to me, because it's like you're saying, you hear what your campaign was built on. We're almost 2 years in the game now, and you've gone completely off the rails, and not even remotely close to anything that you said you were going to do. But I think that's the most dangerous part of it all, in terms of how many people are still willing to ignore that. It's like, okay, he was here in Kentucky last week, or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, to see a line full of people, and it's like, you're just cheering it on, when I feel like everybody should be upset right now.
Yeah.
Everybody should be pissed. You ran this big old thing about how we got to make these slashes in healthcare and do all this and that. And then
no new wars.
We're just sending all kinds of shit over waters and firing them away, and billions of dollars a day, if not more, And then
it's like $2 billion a day it costs.
Then you read the headlines, and it's like the national debt is at an all-time high now, and it's like, it's not going down. It's not going to get any smaller.
No.
But then you make us as everyday citizens feel bad for what's going on. So bringing the conversation back home and going all the way back to the beginning, in terms of just stability and being able to provide. And it's like, I understand how passionate you are and how you feel that it's like, okay, even if I work, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I still need help. I still need access to certain resources. But it's like, for those that may not be doing half of what I'm doing, and they have full access, where is the balance?
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
You gotta, well, take, for instance, like insurance that you pay for out of your paycheck. Where's that insurance go? And a lot of the things, if you pay for out of pocket, are cheaper than if you use your insurance.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I even paying for?
Yeah.
And where's all the money go? Where does all my taxes go? And why do I pay all this money throughout the year? And then when I do my taxes, it's like, oh, you still owe Kentucky, or you still owe federal. It's like, what? Like, our roads are shit. Our schools are shit, and I don't see anything getting better in this city. I think, if you narrow it down, not even to country and to DC, but if you just look at your local government, I think that's kind of more important, where you can actually see your vote go to better things anyways.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people vote in your local, you know,
Mhm.
they just vote for presidents.
Exactly.
And I think the local thing is where you actually see it. And you know, you drive the roads, you see your schools, you see, you know, where our money is gone. You know, Louisville, all they care about is tourism. Hey, we're building this downtown, we're building this, we're building this. And it's like,
Mhm.
how does that help the residents that live here? You know, you're bringing more people into the city when our infrastructure can't handle what we have now. You know, like there's traffic everywhere, no matter where you go,
Yeah.
no matter what time you go.
And it's about to get worse with
Yeah.
them getting ready to shut down 65. I don't know
Yeah.
who signed off on that.
Oh,
but I get it.
We have the worst transportation cabinet ever. But you know, it's like, where does the money go? Like, I think people need to ask those questions. Now, the whole Doge thing, great idea, poor execution, but they need to do that in every state. Like,
Yeah.
where does the money go? Like,
Yeah.
why am I paying so much for JCPS tax and the kids can't even get free food if they don't have food?
Mhm.
Like, why is that?
You see, and not to keep talking in circles, and we'll get ready winding down. Amazing conversation. It did not go according to how I've had this in my head. How many ever weeks ago you text me,
Yeah.
and it was just like, again, I'm not one of them. Oh well, I'm blue, so f you, and that to me,
Stupid.
it doesn't resolve anything.
It just
But-
creates more division.
But
Yeah.
it's like this big push in terms of JCPS and the bad rep that they get. And you see how they're trying to slice funding, and you know, their JCPS is hurting right now,
Yeah.
regardless of what numbers say, how much money was brought in, this and that. And it's just like a system that was already fragile. You're trying to take away from it, and it's hurting a lot of these smaller communities, lower income schools. They're the ones that's going to suffer. And I'm just like, when you sit down and read WLKY's Facebook and things like that, and you see the people applauding it, and like you said earlier, it's like, dude, some of these people, that's their goal, to wake up and see who I can piss off today.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you check the temperature in the room overall, it almost comes off as this is how pretty much half the city feels.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, my wife works at what is considered to be a low income school.
Right.
They need all the resources that they could possibly get.
Yeah.
We're talking about children who may not have food at home. School is their only source of getting a nutritious meal.
Yeah.
Right.
And people are full throttle on board of trying to say, no, they don't need that.
Yeah.
They don't
Right.
need this. And I'm just like, to me, it's all deeply rooted in hatred.
Yeah.
And that's the part that needs to be checked. So when I sit down and have a conversation with people, yes, your views can be completely opposite of mine. You are entitled to that.
Right.
But once you start pushing this hatred and these different rhetorics, then that's when I got to put the wedge in the middle. It's like, you know what, we're not getting nowhere with this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can't get ahead. You can't make any, you know, headway with people like that are so shut down and they're stuck in their ways. There's no talking to them,
mhm,
you know. And I think this is why stuff like this is important. Is, you know, sit down and have the conversation. You know, I think a lot of people are like, oh, he's conservative, that, you know, he's probably racist and he's this and that, you know, all the stereotypical stuff, or he's a Democrat, he's a freeloader, blah, blah, blah. We need to tear down those walls and talk to each other and see what we have in common. And I think it's a lot more than people expect.
yeah,
Yes, we're going to have differences. Everybody's got differences, you know.
Mhm.
You know, you like LeBron, I like Jordan.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so how come we can disagree on so many different things? Music, movies, sports. It's not a big deal. But as soon as you bring in politics or maybe even religion in it, it's like there's a hard line in the sand, and
Yeah.
there's no talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think everything anymore is political because the media portrays everything political. You know, you can't open up your Facebook or Instagram without coming across something
constant.
that is political. That doesn't need to be political,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and or they try to divide people, whether it's Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and blah, blah, blah. They try to create all these different divides. And it's like, why?
Exactly.
I don't get it.
I feel like that's the new norm.
Yeah.
And even myself, I love Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I got Caitlin Clark shoes, all kinds of shit. And I caught hell for that.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, guess what? I've spoke positive about Angel Reese before too. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy basketball, I enjoy sports, but like you're saying, it's like pick a side.
Yeah.
There's no in between. Pick a side. So let me ask you both this, and we can bring it home and close out. So Trump's first term, okay? You guys heard me tell you I'm from a small town, Western Kentucky. Didn't grow up with a lot of African Americans. So a friend of mine back home, she's white. She's married to a black man. They have mixed children. And she's like, I'm voting for Trump, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, why? And she's like, well, my pastor says that they, truly believe that Trump was, appointed and this is going to be great for this and that. She was talking about bringing prayer and stuff back in school. So she had her valid reasons for why. But then all the grab them by the this and all this and that started coming out. Then you started hearing a lot of the different rhetoric. This is the first term.
Right.
And it's like, I'm saying to her, I'm like, how can you vote for this and you have biracial children?
Right.
And it's like, I'm doing some of the same things that you may feel like somebody's doing to you. And it's like, I'm just simply trying to question her just to probe to see how she felt. And when I tell you we came to blows, like we ended a friendship, and I was like, it wasn't me judging you or saying anything. I'm just like, you are white, living in Western Kentucky. You're married to a black man. You have biracial children, and you see somebody that's pushing a rhetoric, and they have a fan base, a core fan base, that if they didn't know who you were and they saw your children out in the streets, they're going to judge them. They're going to view them and have certain hatred and things in their heart and mind. And she was just like, that doesn't matter. I don't care. And I was just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So sending this question back to you all, it's like, how does that, like, how do you cipher between, okay, I'm going to vote for this person because deep down their policies, their views and things like that benefit me, but then I know I'm going to get the backlash of the rhetoric from the public that is affiliated with this person. Well, that's what makes it difficult.
I think, going back to I think Trump has said some shit that you're like, what? Like, what did he just say? You know what I mean? Like, but I think on the other side, I call them race baiters. They make everything about race, right? They're married to white people and they're black. Kamala, Don Lemon, there's some other ones in there. AOC. They're the ones that always talk about race and Black America and everything, but you're married to a white person. So are you just doing that to create the division? Because obviously you can't be racist because, you're married to a white person or whatever. And I think that right there, you need to see both sides and see that both sides are guilty of the same thing. Usually when they're pointing fingers, they're guilty as well. And for both parties, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they did this and this. And it's like, well, if you rewinded 3 years ago, it's the same thing, like everyone, are we great again yet? Talking about gas prices. I'm like, where were you during the 4 years of Biden when gas was higher than a giraffe's ass? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like everybody picks and choose what they want. If they're defending Trump, they're picking out, the positives, and then, or vice versa. And it's like, be real about your candidate and your party, call shit out on both sides. Like me, did I vote for Trump? Yeah, I did. Do I regret it to an extent? Yeah. Do I think he's an absolute douchebag? Absolutely. But his policies that I liked, that's what I voted on. Now, is he fucking those up? Yeah. Yeah, he is. So and would you know, I think I don't think there's a president out there that delivered on all their what they campaigned on. But
Yeah.
I know Biden definitely didn't do it. I don't think Trump did it either. So
No, I agree there.
so rewinding back to our previous discussion, you know, let's get the old people out of there. Let's get someone in there that is more of our age. I think 40, 45 would be a great age, or 50. And, you know, who has a family. So maybe they can reflect on how's this policy going to affect my kids?
Yeah.
You know, not like what we have now. They got grandkids, great grandkids. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like, get someone younger in the mix and get an actual strong independent in there. I mean, I think your strongest one was probably Ross Perot when we were kids. You know what I mean? And that's because he was kind of like Trump. He funded his own campaign. He was a billionaire. But we need someone in the middle, because this left and right shit is not working for us. It's not.
Yeah. As for me, to go back to your question, I'm kind of like you. I couldn't, with being in a biracial marriage to a white woman with biracial kids, I couldn't vote for Trump based on the things that he said. You know,
what did he say?
Though,
what did he say?
Like with the grabbing them by the vagina, stuff like that. Just because I looked at me having a daughter, and that's just not someone that I wanted her to look up to as presidential.
Was you never that talked like that though?
Was that wow?
Have you ever talked like that?
No comment.
Okay.
You're
not running for president. You're not running for president.
That's all you're asking. I was like, you know, in all actuality, it's like, okay, you know, if you want to call me the big dumb jock, I was on basketball teams, locker room. We all had the high five moments and did this and done that.
Shit talking.
And it's like, again, to me, that seat as a president I'll say that it should come with a set of standards and requirements in terms of behavior. I mean, again, what happens behind closed doors? Right. Everybody's done some dumb shit, whatever you do. But it's like, at the end of the day, I'm supposed to be the best example for the highest seat for this country. And when you hold on real quick, when you look at his track record leading up to that, and then once he filled the seat, that's my biggest thing. Now that he's in the seat, none of his behavior has changed.
No.
So to ask me to ignore that or just treat it like, oh, that's just him being him, to me, I just feel like that is such a crazy idea to even present to people. And it's like, no, you don't get to sit here and say all this about certain demographics of people. And it's like, oh, they're all rapists and they're all criminals. They're all this and that. You're grouping everybody into a box, and you make these people that feel like this or look like this feel like they have a target on them now. People look at them different. And that's what that was my perspective to her at the time. It's like, he's rallying up his core base, and I deeply felt like it was rooted in racism. You're playing that card in terms of, I'm going to make all these people feel important. We're taking America back, build the wall, dude. Like, you wanted to isolate all these demographics of people. And I'm like, your kids fit into that box. If they were just out walking the street and you were not present to say, hey, no, not my child.
Right.
They're just going to look like all these other people. And I'm like, bro, we're in Western fucking Kentucky.
Right.
I don't know how far Western you've been, but it's like, dude, like, Western Kentucky has a ton of racism. I've experienced it firsthand. So it's like, to know that and to still be like, you know what, I don't give a shit. And it's like, I was like, how? So,
well, real quick. And that was hard for me, because like, I did agree with the Trump policies, and I've always second guessed myself because I made that decision based on just not wanting that type of mentality or behavior in the president's seat. So I guess that's what made me start realizing that I needed to take my blinders off, and hopefully this next election, there is someone that has the what I'm trying to say, that has the ideals that I feel that would best suit me and my family going forward. So
That's what our
Yeah.
decision should be based on
Yeah.
now. It's like, okay, I don't know if you have children or not.
Yeah, I got 2 boys.
So we have children. My best interest now is what's going to be for them. I
Right.
could give a shit what happens to me at this point.
Yeah.
I'm 41. I've did everything that I could possibly do. God willing, I live another 41 years.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, my oldest is getting ready to turn 14 next week.
Yeah.
And based on what's going on, so many massive layoffs. We grew up in that era where we were told if you go to college, life is gonna be grand, it's gonna be great. And it's like we're
Yeah.
at a point now where a college degree almost don't mean
Yeah.
shit.
It's a paperweight.
So it's like
there's no gonna be
what
SSI for
what
us.
is going on from a political standpoint in terms of how things are finna align for these kids that are
Yeah.
getting ready to enter the real world. And you're looking at corporate America almost turn over to automations and AI and things
Yeah.
like that. Factory work is definitely going into terms of more mechanical machines doing
Yeah.
it. Like we're constantly waking up and reading all these major companies doing massive layoffs,
Mhm.
and we're getting ready to put children out here.
Yeah.
That is my driving
Scary.
force.
There's no more
Scary.
Fords, GEs. There's none of that.
No, there's
more.
there's no pensions.
Yeah.
I got 2 boys, so I'm really scared. So it's like, what if they do the draft? You know what I mean? Like,
You know, I didn't even
Because-
think about that.
yeah, because of our stupid leadership right now, their dumb decisions, my kids might go off to war, like, and I don't think a lot of people think about that, how they're voting or how their candidate actually can change their family. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's up in DC or whatever, but those decisions, they come trickling down, I mean, we got out of war for 20 something years in Afghanistan. Great job, blah, blah, blah. And now we're back in the Middle East again. And it's like, we never stop, and
Mhm.
Again, going back to let's worry about ourselves. Let's worry about the future generations, because what we have right now, I mean, it's just not working. And I don't think there's I can't think of one good candidate on either side right now.
And that's the
that they can
scary part.
present. Yeah, and,
That's the scary part.
So, but I do think, again, the important thing to take away from today is I think we got more in common. I think we need to call out our parties, call out their flaws. When they do screw up, call them out. Don't just say, oh, well, that's just the way it is. Or, well, I voted for it, so I got to support it. No, call it like it is, and I think a lot of people don't do that because they're afraid of what their friends might say. I'll tell you this. If your friends want to outcast you for that, they're not your real friend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're going to have differences of opinion.
Yeah.
But, we had a thing here lately, with the whole Charlie Kirk shooting that went on.
Mhm.
And well, one of our friends was very vocal about it, and my wife deleted him off Facebook. I was like, well, why'd you do that? She's like, well, what if he wished that was our son? Because our one son, he's very religious, and everything. And she's like, what if he grew up conservative? And what if he spoke about things like that? Would he want the same done to him?
Mhm.
And that does get you thinking about people like that. There's extreme people on both sides, and I think you do away with them on both sides. Don't even listen to them. Don't even entertain them, and entertain the people that are logical thinkers and that are Republican and Democrat, not hard right and not your crazy liberals. Don't listen to them, because the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. That's all you hear about is the extreme versions of each side.
Yeah.
You don't hear about the middle. And I think if you worried about the middle, we could get headway finally. And I don't know what we do about that. I don't know how you get there, but I think we can get there. I think it's just going to take time. I think it's going to take a lot of time, because our society is so eroded right now in division and hate and everything else. I think you got to cast that shit to the side. And if we want to if we care about our future, if we care about our kids, and we care about our paychecks and where it goes, and
Yeah.
how can I not get the Kroger brand? How can I get the brand name this time?
Right.
It's pretty sad. I've talked to a lot of my friends, and they're like, I never thought we would make the money that we make and feel so poor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think that needs to be addressed. Let's stop worrying about these people getting richer and richer up in DC on both sides. It's not just one side, on both sides. And let's worry about us.
Absolutely. I don't have nothing to add to that. I think that's perfect in closing. Is there anything you want to add to it?
No, I'm good, bro. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it was a great conversation. I feel like mission accomplished. I'm not gonna lie and say that I really thought it was gonna come down to just us clashing at some point during the conversation, but it was the polar opposite.
And I think that's why this is important.
Absolutely.
Like, we talked, we didn't yell at each other, we didn't throw blows or anything like that. It's
Absolutely.
just people, adults talking.
So there you have it. Again, thank you all for pulling up, especially on a Saturday in the middle of March Madness. You guys were expressing that you all may be interested in doing a podcast. So hopefully this is a Kickstarter just to kind of get a feel of it.
Yeah.
You got my support. Anytime y'all want to pull back up, do this again, regardless of the topics and things, we can make it happen. For those that chimed in on the live and gave some comments, appreciate you. You all know the routine. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we are out.
Ass toasted, no competition. Amnesia coasting. I feel so high, I feel so live. My body's in the twine. Amnesia coasting. I feel so live, and I know why. That I can't deny. Amnesia coasting. Giddy, fine wine, fools, malt liquor. Wish me I'm high class.